Should you beware the Sirens of Time? That is the question we'll be asking in this video because Big Finish's first ever Doctor Who story got given a makeover last year as they went back to that original 1999 multi-Doctor classic and re-edited it, revamped it, gave it new music, new sound effects, and brand spanking new cover by Tom Webster as well. This is the Sirens of Time Redux, something very different from Big Finish. We've never had like a special edition before, so I mean, what a way to celebrate 25 years of Big Finish with a twist, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a unique way, isn't it? To
Hmm.
sort of look back at where they started with the Doctor Who license and thought, you know what, we've mastered our craft over these 25 years. Let's give it a spruce up to the skill set we have now.
Yeah.
And I think that very much reflects the Silent of Time you get with this Redux, I feel.
Hmm. We're coming at this from two different perspectives, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
I have never listened to this story before. This was my first experience of it because after it was announced, I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna wait for this and enjoy it the way it's always meant to be. It feels like this is Nick Briggs doing his
His cut.
definitive version. Yeah, I mean, there's that saying that art is never finished; it's just abandoned. So, Nick abandoned this 25 years ago, and he came back to it to do a little sprucing up, make it more the way he likes it now. Yeah, whereas you came at this having heard it how long ago now, would you say, originally?
2014.
Ah, so right when
I
you were first getting into Big
I
Finish.
didn't hear it back in 1999 as a
No,
one-year-old,
no.
so
Would have been impressive.
that would have been quite impressive. But no, and yeah, going back to the 1990 point, Sorrent of Time does feel like a product of the 1990s, with
Hmm.
the sense that the way it originally was structured, that each Doctor would have an episode, all the Doctors would come together in episode four, and that made total sense back in 1999. You hadn't heard Peter Davison, Colin Baker, and Sylvester McCoy in the role as the Doctor.
Hmm. It
So
was
to
almost
give,
more proof of concept, wasn't it?
yeah, it was very much there for fans to go, here they are back as the Doctor, one episode, enjoy them, and then they'll all be together, give them their own limelight. Whereas now we're so accustomed to hearing these guys in the role,
Hmm.
it it made sense to sort of splice up together, and I think it makes the story way more enjoyable because it feels like everything's happening at once. Whereas I think originally it felt quite isolated.
It gives it a sense of scale. That's what I got
Yes.
from listening to this and then sort of retroactively thinking, okay, how would this work with these things being off in their own uh, stories? I think you can tell in some ways you've got this character who recurs throughout the stories and there's sort of a mystery around her. And I think with that, you can tell at which points that was weaved into the original three-part structure. Because when she's with the Seventh Doctor, there's not really much mention of it, which was the first episode, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, but then as it goes on, you get in more hints there as the audience would have picked up on the original. So that's maybe one thing that didn't quite transfer as well, but
Hmm.
I think it still makes perfect sense.
I mean, you still get the revelation of, oh, they're the same person in episode four.
Mm,
So you still get that oh moment.
yeah, and I think you can pick up on it as it goes along as well.
Hmm.
And I think, yeah, I believe it's Sarah Moat playing the character.
Yeah, she became quite a big,
Yeah.
prolific voice of early Big Finish.
I mean, you got Mark Gatiss in this as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, Nicholas Pegg. You got quite a few. Maggie Stables too.
yeah, yeah.
Got quite a few Big Finish alumni
Yeah,
beginning their Big Finish journey here.
yeah, and you get so many little Easter eggs to early Big Finish within this, like the Night of Alicia. I think you've got Vansel, who's a character who plays a big part in early Gallifrey,
Oh,
Knights of
wow.
Alicia, they become sort of referenced in sort of Dalek Empire with Collendorf. You've got the android, which links into sort of the Cyberman series, what kickstarts in, sort of Orion. So there's little feelers for the Big Finish universe right rippling out from this story.
Ah,
So that's quite neat.
ah, ah. Yeah, that's crazy to think that it has so many connections. I suppose a lot of that comes from Nick, doesn't it? Sort of reaching back
Mm.
into his bag of goodies and going, "Oh, I did this once. Let's throw that
Well,
out there a bit
originally, well, he
more."
wanted the Daleks in it, but because of the
Mm,
license, and then he wanted the War Chief's son, which you can see elements of that originally in the story with the Doctors being in their own little pockets. You can
mm.
imagine that being like the zones, as it were.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I mean, speaking of the Doctors, they sound a lot younger, don't they?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't quite realize how much their voices have aged over the past 25 years. Some more than others. But
McCoy, I think, sounds pretty similar.
I think
But
McCoy acts for audio a bit more now.
yeah,
Yeah, like this, it's a good performance here, don't get me wrong. But you can sort of tell he's not quite used to just acting for audio.
hmm.
I think his voice isn't quite as distinct at times. Funny, Colin sometimes sounded a bit like the android character to me.
Oh yeah,
I feel like he had a similar voice. Peter Davison, he's much more gravelly now.
which seems more
Makes
doctory.
Yeah, it's funny because when you're watching them back on TV, you don't necessarily realize how young their voices are
No.
because you're not just focusing on their voices, you're focusing on the physicality as well. Whereas when you then all you have is the voice, you notice that a lot more. I mean, funnily enough, with Colin, I actually found it easier to visualize some of his mannerisms here. He felt
Hmm.
almost closer to his TV self, which I suppose was kind of the
Makes
point, is that
sense.
Big Finish got away from that a bit.
Well,
Yeah, I
you
could sort
get
of.
the comment on the personalities, don't you?
Yeah, it works out quite nicely across those first three episodes as it all interconnects. It creates a very grand picture overall. I like the variety of them as well. And I think that feels like it'd be more highlighted here than it would have when they're all separate. I mean, I think
So,
my favourite strand was the Fifth Doctor's, though.
yeah, episode 2, I was going to say, is my favourite of the Sirens in the original edit, and that is the Fifth Doctor's. But,
Mm.
'cause there's some nice little action sequences there.
How does it compare sound effects and music wise? Because that's something that I can't comment on.
I mean, one big thing to mention is the theme tune. We don't have the 70s theme tune. They've gone for, you know, the respective Doctor's themes from, I
Yeah,
think, whatever the last Doctor is in that part gets the opening theme, I think.
yeah. So if it's opening with a Fifth Doctor segment, it'll have the Fifth Doctor theme. If it's closing with a Sixth Doctor segment, it'll have the Sixth Doctor theme. Which unfortunately means, because of the way it's uh, edited together, the Sixth Doctor ends up with most of the theme
Hmm.
music. I think the Seventh Doctor only has one. But yeah, I mean, the cliffhangers are pretty neat, particularly how part three is pretty much all three cliffhangers from those original episodes building into one. I think
Which was
that,
a big criticism for the original Sirens, I feel.
hmm, yeah, I wasn't a fan of part four though.
Yeah.
I think it felt a bit more like a runaround,
It's
and
a
it went
big
on.
chunky part. It's 40 minutes, isn't it?
Yeah, I felt like it both dragged quite a lot and also was doing far too much at the same time.
Yeah.
But I still enjoyed the ride up until that point.
It feels very sort of classic Gallifrey story, isn't it?
Hmm. Yeah, there is something in the sound effects and the way Gallifrey's and the Time Lords are used. It does feel very retro,
Hmm.
which makes sense because this is made closer to the time of the Five Doctors and Trial of a Time Lord than it is to where we are now in time.
Yeah, and I think
But,
the music reflects that 'cause it's quite synthy.
hmm,
It's got a very classic sound to it.
yeah. I mean, would you say it's worth picking up for people who have already bought the original?
I would say so. I think that this is a much more satisfying narrative experience. I don't want to say that we've been sleeping on like a chimes of midnight, but it's made me reappraise and go, you know what? There's some really good stuff within
Yeah,
Sirens of Time.
it has its merits.
It has its merits, and like I say, it like you said, it is proof of concept.
Yeah, I think maybe that's what put me off getting the original before,
Hmm.
because I was like, okay, this is produced at a time where they're trying to show people they can do Doctor Who on audio. It's not really being something that's made for me now. It's like I already know that they can do this.
Yeah.
This is just the rough starting point before they flesh it out and do better stories later. But yeah, I felt like it was the right time to dive in now with this Redux.
It's a
Uh,
unique way of
hmm,
honoring the past.
yeah, I
But
do.
go
Sorry,
on.
go on.
I was just
No,
gonna
you.
say, but that's not all for the Surround of Time Redux because there were multiple editions, and this is
That was what I
where.
was about to get onto
Oh
anyway.
well, there we go. We're in sync here. Um, there are multiple ways of purchasing, whether it be bronze to platinum, and
Mm,
this is where Luke's got a bit of a bugbear, and I have to
yeah.
agree.
This is nothing to do with the story itself. It's more the business side of it, I suppose, because currently all you can get is the bronze edition, which is the download edition, which is fair enough. They made the others limited. But one of the things that you got with all the others, if you went CD or got the cassettes, or I can't even remember what the platinum one
It
also
was
included. I think it was
art. It was like
more,
art
yeah,
cards.
more art cards and stuff. You would have got this very neat documentary about the making of this story, looking back at it. But
Does
for whatever
anybody
reason,
remember the Sirens of Time?
yeah, indeed. But for whatever reason, that's not included in just the download version. You would have to get a physical one for that. And I kind of regret not getting the physical one, not just for that, but for, having it physically.
Prosperity. Yeah,
Yeah, I would have only gone the silver edition for the CD.
that's what I did.
Yeah. And I mean, you could check out a little unboxing short of that
You
if you
can.
wish. Uh, but yeah, I do feel like it's unfair for that to now be unpurchasable because all the limited editions are gone.
Hmm.
So now no one can access a virtual copy of. Does anyone remember the Sirens of Time?
Because if
Which
anything,
limits the amount of people who can remember the Sirens of Time documentary.
if anything, that's the worth the price of the box set alone because it's an hour
Yeah.
long, and we Doctor Who fans, we're great at double dipping. The reason why we
Hmm.
love the collection sets is because it's got new features. This
Yeah.
has a whole new feature, but because you can't get it now, it makes it a real shame.
Yeah.
So Big Finish, if you're listening, make it available on the bronze.
Yeah, because it's only a download only thing. So it's an easy fix to just stick it on there. I don't think anyone who paid the money for the upper tiers are going to mind because they've got something physical out of that. That's what they were paying for. I don't think anyone was going for those just to get this exclusive documentary that they probably didn't even realize wasn't on the bronze edition.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I certainly didn't pick it up. I was surprised when I opened up that download folder and saw, oh, that documentary is not actually there. Yeah, we were maybe a bit cheeky. You did lend it to me to listen to,
Well, at the
but
end of the day, you've paid for it.
yeah, it's not like Big Finish are losing out on money there because I can't. I would gladly pay for that documentary. I thought I did pay for that documentary, but I can't
Yeah.
because it's not available to buy at all from Big Finish now. So yeah, it's just as a product like this, I think it's something that should be made available and can still be made available.
Yeah.
Just stick it as a bonus on
You
the
made the
download
original
copy.
Sound of Time a bonus.
Yeah, so if you do pick this one up, you do get that as well if you haven't already. So don't go buying both. Yeah, I'd still recommend picking this one up, the download only. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, if you can find the physical elsewhere and you're interested in it, probably go for that as well. Yeah, I had a good time.
Yeah. I'd say it's a 7 out of 10.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'll agree with that. I was probably leaning more towards a strong 8, maybe even a lowish 9 in the
Wow.
first three parts. But yeah, part four derailed it a fair bit, I'm afraid. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, Sirens of Time Redux. Let us know what you thought of it if you picked it up in the comments below. Are you tempted at all by it if you're someone who has got the original? Uh, Let us know.
And we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Goodbye, everyone.